and welcome back to your Autism Game Plan. I'm Joya Vanderlaan, a nurse practitioner, a functional medicine specialist, and an autism mom. Today we're going to be going over leaky gut. I am going to try my very best to keep this short. It's a topic that I've spent weeks and weeks, hours at home, learning about at various conferences and webinars and all sorts of things. I'm going to try and keep it short. It's very nuanced, but there are some general principles that I want to talk about because I think they're important that you know for your child and maybe even for you. For many of our kids with autism, leaky gut is a major issue. In fact, it can be one of the root causes of a lot of the symptoms and behaviors that they have going on. It's something that I've dealt with personally, I've dealt with my own kids, and certainly with a lot of patients. One of the first things I look at when I see a patient, regardless of what's going on, is what is the health of their gut like? Because it affects so many things. So let's take a little bit of a look at what is leaky gut. Two big things that I think about when I'm looking at leaky gut are about 80% of the immune system's function originates in the gut. And so if the gut is not healthy, if we have a leaky gut, as we sometimes call it, then the immune system's not going to be reacting well to things. It could be overreacting, it could be underreacting, it could be kind of going haywire in other ways. So we definitely want to keep the immune system and its function in mind when we're thinking about the gut. There's a big connection there. The other thing we want to realize and remember is that the gut is responsible for a lot of nutrient absorption, fluid absorption, right? So when we're talking about the gut, we're not just talking about the large intestine, where a lot of the fluid is absorbed. We're talking about the small intestine as well, where a lot of our nutrients are processed and absorbed. So we want to think about that. If we're not absorbing nutrients, our bodies are not going to be functioning the way they're intended to either. So immunity and nutrients. I want to touch very quickly on what the inside of the gut is supposed to look like. Well, there's a layer, the mucosal layer, that's one cell thick. And so these cells should be held together just like this, very tightly, by tight junctions. When these cells are tightly held together like this, things that aren't supposed to come through don't come through. But when there's inflammation and other damage to the gut that causes those layers, that one-celled layer, to separate, then all of a sudden things that shouldn't be allowed to pass through can pass through and get into our bloodstream where they should not be. One of the reasons why leaky gut is so problematic and so hard to treat is that there can be many different causes. When that mucosal barrier is broken, is not functioning the way it should be, many problems can occur. So what then comes before those problems? What can cause leaky gut? Let's look at a list. Inflammation is the root cause of a lot of leaky gut. Now, what is that inflammation caused by? Well, sometimes it's yeast or bacterial overgrowth and imbalance in those gut bacteria that we've talked about. Sometimes it's inflammatory foods, be that gluten, dairy, grains. Sometimes it's legumes that are responsible. Sometimes it's sugar or alcohol or caffeine. A lot of different various foods can cause inflammation in the gut, and for different people, it can be different things. Food sensitivities certainly can cause leaky gut. If those food sensitivities are causing inflammation, and the inflammation can then lead to leaky gut. Interestingly, stress, including the lack of quality sleep. So whether we're emotionally, physically stressed, stressed because of lack of sleep, stressed because we're not getting the right foods, right? So that causes a physical stress on our body. That can cause leaky gut. Certainly low vitamin D levels can contribute to leaky gut. If we don't have an adequate vitamin D level, we're not going to have a healthy gut. There's a vitamin D receptor on every single cell in the body. Vitamin D is key. A lot of times the additives and chemicals in our foods will cause leaky gut. Think about what we eat in terms of food dyes, preservatives, MSG, various things that are added to our foods we may not even realize until we start reading the labels, but those can cause inflammation in our bodies, but also in our gut. And then chemicals and toxins in our environment. What are we using to clean our homes? What are we using to spray in the air to make things smell nice, for instance? So we want to take a look at all of that, and I'll do some videos later on about those certain things specifically and what you can do to avoid those. So if your child has leaky gut, what are some of the things that might flow from that or be caused by leaky gut? So autoimmunity can be one thing. Remember, I talked about that immune system either being over or underreactive, right? And when our immune system is not functioning properly, one of the things that happens is something called autoimmunity can develop. The body attacks itself. The other thing is that when food particles are getting into the bloodstream as a result of leaky gut, the body, our immune systems recognize those particles as foreign and can create an immune response or an inflammatory response to those things, which can lead to then more food sensitivities, which kind of perpetuates that cycle. And very obviously, leaky gut can cause GI or gut complaints, pain, constipation, diarrhea, bloating, gas, reflux, all these things just within the GI system. Leaky gut can be causing these symptoms. And then leaky gut can in itself be responsible for overgrowth, an imbalance in certain yeast or bacteria in the gut. If we don't have that nice integrity between those cells in that mucosal layer, then it's not a good environment for the good bacteria to grow. I think of it like soil and plants. If we have leaky gut, that soil is not ideal to host the plants or the proper organisms that we want to be growing in there. So this was just a very short intro on leaky gut and what is it and what can cause it and what can it lead to. Very, very simplified. I'm working on a much more comprehensive course for those who are interested. The course is set to come out in probably a couple of months, depending on how fast I can get things done, which depends on children. And we all know that's unpredictable. So I'm working on it, and I hope many of you will take a look at that and benefit from that as well. My next video next week is going to be on how to begin to heal or think about healing leaky gut. What are some of the things we can look at? So what are some of the things we can do to start that road to healing? Remember, be gentle with yourself. You're doing a great job.